Afternoon and welcome. We're not quite ready? I am a stickler for on time. He has the on-air light on. So I was
No,
like,
I'm having fun with my plan.
But you're not having fun in general?
Not today.
Jacoby and I made a pact that we were going to have fun.
okay, so I'm cheap. Out for a walk just after Christmas at Macy's. You can get it for $10.
I have a
Got
You have
not
a headache?
a drawer full, but I have a
Is it your eyeball?
significant number because they were inexpensive. I buy them as potential gifts for people.
I like it.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Committee of Finance and Administration. Could I have the approval of the minutes, please?
So moved.
second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, the minutes have been approved. Thank you. This afternoon, we're going to come with our first discussion item is from Connor Thorne. Welcome down. Come on, Connor.
I think
Thank you, Council. So the city has finalized their state contract with Loomis, effective for May 1st, 2022. And we have invoices that have been incurred from January through April of this year. So I'm seeking approval to extend our previous contract through April 30th of this year to get those invoices paid. That won't have any impact to our budget, as contract renewal was relatively in line with the previous contract. So just approval on those January through April invoices to be paid, and approval of that contract extension.
Any questions for Connor on that? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Rick Giddings on the SBO for the clean fuel infrastructure. Welcome, Rick.
Good afternoon. This is an SBO basically to establish a budget, 2022 budget for the Clean Fuel Infrastructure Reserve resolution that passed at the end of February. We tried to pass this in April. It failed with expenditures at $264,000. Because we have completed projects and some new projects that are needing to be done for some vehicles that are arriving in the next year or so, we have revised the expenditures to reflect just our immediate needs, which will make them at $140,000 in expenditures for 2022.
And I saw that our yearly revenue is expected to be $264,000.
Yes, so we're collecting that via the surcharge. We will need that in the future as time progresses. We get more electric vehicles, but for the remainder of 2022, $140,000, especially with the ARPA money that we have been promised, we should be fine with that.
Any questions for Rick on this? Hearing none, thank you. I will co-sponsor this, Hannah Lee. It needs a second sponsor, so thank you, Rick.
Oh, you need a second sponsor?
I did. It was Council President Beggs and myself. Thank you, Councilmember Kinnear. All righty. Number 3, the SBO demolition for a structure at 801 North Regal. Jason?
Good afternoon, Council. Jason Ruffing, City of Spokane Code Enforcement. I do have a quick presentation that I can go through just to show some photos and some of the timeline about the case here. But just here to talk about 801 North Regal. It's a fire-damaged commercial building. It was vacant prior to the fire. Ownership has been ordered by the building official to demolish the structure, and that order has not been complied with. This usually results in a referral to the city to go through the purchasing process, hire a demolition contractor to do the work, with all costs being placed as a lien on the property for cost recovery. Is it okay if I just jump over here to go through the presentation?
And Jason, if you can share that into the WebEx meeting as well.
think I've done that right? Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you.
So just briefly to start, this is an overview of the location. It's on Regal, just north of Trent, and this is just southeast of the city Nelson Center, Fleet, Solid Waste, Streets, work out of that facility. This is an interesting property because it actually spans 2 parcels. This is the first demolition that I've been involved with where the one structure involves 2 parcels, so that does complicate some of the noticing that we did. It complicates some of the leaning activity, but we've gone over all of that with legal. The primary owner there, the larger square, is Regal District LLC, which is a LLC out of Tacoma. And the smaller sliver there is owned by Andy Louie, which is another property owner here in town. Brief timeline, this results from a fire on September 26th. A summary order from the building official occurred on October 1st. This was an order both to demolish the property and to fence to secure the property in the interim, and neither of those orders were complied with. November 16th, due to there being no progress with property owners resolving the property, we held an administrative show cause hearing where demolition was again ordered. A deadline was set of December 8th of 2021. This was not met, and no appeal of any of the building officials' orders was received. Confirmation was received from Spokane Clean Air in early February that there was asbestos confirmed with a limited sample. On March 23rd, staff worked with purchasing to send out the RFP for the demolition. April 8th, we held a pre-bid conference at the site with all the potential contractors, and April 18th, bids were due, with the low bid being $469,900. Few photos here. This is the north side of the building. Roof is collapsed. The majority of that northern portion of the building is completely destroyed. The damage is what complicates the asbestos process because an asbestos company can't safely access the interior of the building to do a full survey and then potentially to abate all of the asbestos that's there. And when this occurs, demolition companies have to work with an abatement company for something called an alternate means work plan, which essentially means the entire structure has to be evaluated and treated as asbestos. So that increases costs. A couple more photos here. This is the southeastern portion of the building, really just to show that the damage isn't limited to that northern side. This is the very south corner of the building, and the roof there is collapsed as well. On that portion that has a separate owner on the western end, the building official and myself actually went into that portion of the building, and the damage is as extensive on that side as well.
Jason, can you take questions? Are you ready? Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, I guess, so a couple questions. One is there the high cost, is that going to be, would anybody be paying that, or is it particularly high because it's the city that's doing the demolition?
I would say anybody would be paying that. It's a very large structure. Of course, code enforcement doesn't routinely do these sorts of demolitions, but we had one that was somewhat similar in Hilliard. I think it was 4 years ago, and it was, again, a smaller structure, and it was in the same ballpark as far as price goes.
And then we would take ownership of the land after this, and it's...
Potentially. So what code enforcement does when we do work of any sort at a structure, whether it's boarding it up, fencing it, or doing a demolition, we lien the property with any costs incurred. So all of that gets placed as a lien on the property taxes. And in this case, we have 2 parcels, so we're actually going to divide that lien proportionately amongst those 2. What happens from there could be a variety of things. Oftentimes it does become a city-owned property, but it goes through the tax foreclosure process first. So the assumption is the city is abating a public safety hazard, and the assumption is that the ownership is going to pay that lien, make the taxpayers whole. If that doesn't occur, we would go through the property tax process to recoup costs and whatever other legal remedies there might be.
And once it's scraped, do we know what the value of the underlying land is?
That's hard to say. I don't know at this time. I do know that the demolition costs are higher than the assessed value of both properties combined. And One other thing to note is that the property tax processes would be separate. So there's two parcels, so we could have two different timelines. The larger parcel could happen sooner. The other parcel, each owner could pay their portion of the lien. So there could be a variety of outcomes here. But it is possible that it does go through tax foreclosure and that it could become a city-owned property in the future.
And then are we in contact with the actual property owner?
There has been very limited response from the primary owner, from the representative of the LLC. I think maybe 3 total emails. Since we started the case here, that ownership was represented by an attorney at the first hearing, and that attorney dissolved that relationship after the hearing. So there's just been very limited contact. Nothing has been proposed. No insurance documentation has been submitted. No demolition plan. Nothing that's been required has been received by that property. There has been some limited contact and some limited submittals with the smaller property owner, but it was not anything that the building official could review and approve.
So last question. So if the value is a lot less than the lien we're going to end up putting on this thing because of the demolition, and there's no buyers, no takers, is there a way we can pursue the owner for cost recovery through litigation or anything else?
I don't have a great answer for you there. I would have to double check with legal. There are some other options aside from tax foreclosure. There could be foreclosing on a specific lien by the city. There could be receivership as a potential alternative, but this was the path that we were directed to go through with from our conversations with legal prior to the hearings and the demolition order.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Councilmember Kinnear.
Jason, thanks for this. So it's my understanding that the property is assessed at about 175. So, and we're going to spend over $500,000 to abate this. What's the zoning here?
Believe it's light industrial.
Okay. So there's a possibility that the property could be sold, and then whoever buys the property would be responsible for abatement of this issue? Is that an option?
Yes, so prior to any contract being formalized, if the property's sold, that new owner would be responsible for the condition of the property and resolving that if
So
it did
then we
sell.
wouldn't have to be out $500,000.
Correct. If another buyer came forward and purchased the property, that would be something to consider and could potentially change the path that we're going through right now, but there hasn't really been any indications of that at this point.
Well, people probably don't know that it's an option, so.
True. And this, I guess one other related note, the majority portion of the property has been in a foreclosure process for a lien that it has, and also is in arrears on property taxes. So there's multiple levels of abandoned property indications here with the majority of the structure. So I'm not sure if there would be a sale listing.
Okay, and also in light industrial, you can build housing, so that is an option as well. Thank you.
Councilmember Bingo.
Great question. I had the same question to know if somebody could purchase it before. I guess it comes down to if the city's going to end up doing this anyway, then why would a property owner purchase it before that time? Just let the city do the heavy lifting and then we'll come in afterward. You said that Andy Louie also has a lien on this property, correct?
Andy Louie owns the portion at the very western end. There aren't liens on his portion of the property that I'm aware of, and that part of the building wasn't insured. The majority owner of the larger parcel has a lien from a mortgage of some sort on the property.
Okay, so if this went out for people to get paid in that reconciliation process, who gets paid first? Is the city highest priority or is?
Yeah, so any demolition or work that the city does on a property, when we assess that lien, it's the same level of importance as property taxes. So we're right there with property taxes, which would supersede a mortgage or some other type of lien.
Okay,
It'd be a primary lien position.
okay.
Councilmember Stratton.
I just want to say, Jason, I think I've been through one of these with you before, and I know this is a lot of work. So thank you for bringing us this information, because this is not easy to get down in the weeds and figure out. But you do it every time, and it's appreciated. Thanks.
So Jason, if it went through receivership, what type of timeline is that? Because I'm trying to figure out well, of course, the most expedient and the most cost-effective. But if we went that route, then what would that look like hypothetically?
Receivership is a program that typically focuses on housing and resale of an abandoned property of some sort or a nuisance property. And I think that resale component is where this one has its challenges, is because if we did have a receiver appointed, I guess our direction from legal was that there might not be a change with the property because it might not sell going forward. So it might really be similar, because then the receiver might have to do the demolition work, which would again be a city cost. It would just be recouped through the court process as opposed to a tax foreclosure process. And as I said, the majority portion of this property is past due on taxes, so the timeline might not be quite as lengthy as a typical property.
So we would have an indeterminate amount of time that the city would be carrying this loss until we're possibly made whole? No? Okay. Any other questions for Jason on this? Thank you, Jason. I
you.
called him, I said, we all got questions for you today, so come prepared to answer that.
I'll do my best to close this out correctly.
It's crazy how much it's been.
I know, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we're going to have Michelle Murray come with Asset Capital Fire and Police. Michelle?
Good afternoon, Council. I am here today to present an SPO that is for the SIP balance in the capital plan for 2022 for fire and for police. We're asking to use the overage of contributions to 5901, which is the Asset Management Capital Fund, over the debt service payments of this year and splitting it 50-50 between police and fire so they can fully fund the rest of their 2022 capital plan.
Any questions for Michelle? All right, Michelle,
right.
thank you very
Do
much.
you have
Thank you.
sponsors?
Oh, I need two. I only have one.
I think
I'm one.
I was one of them, right?
Well, Councilmember Kinnear is the
Okay.
other. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kinnear, on that one. Okay, we are going to have an update on Questica overview by Jessica. Is she on screen?
I am on screen.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, so good afternoon, Council. Today's brief presentation is on the status of the Questica project. Questica is a bit of a buzzword right now, so I thought I'd start with a recap of what it is. So I will attempt to share a presentation. All right, Questica is a software company that leads a multi-user budgeting for governments, education, and nonprofits. In fact, it's my understanding that Spokane County and Spokane Public Schools currently use Questica Budget. City of Spokane has purchased products with Questica Budget being the main solution. Questica Budget is the budget development tool that allows multiple users to create budgets. It also comes with budget management tools such as variance reporting. Questica is not an accounting software. It is integrated with the city's accounting software, however, for actual reporting. The benefits of Questica Budget are plentiful. There's easy to use and navigate user interface. It has secureable user permissions, read access for all budget stakeholders, the ability to add documents and notes, history logs so that administrators can know who did what and when, dozens of canned reports with the ability to create our own as well. And with such a robust system, implementation takes time. So I thought we could talk about what we've been able to accomplish so far. The contract was signed at the beginning of 2021, and the kickoff meeting was held that April. And over the course of 13 months, the implementation team did several things, recreating the city's chart of accounts, loading historical budget, actual, and position data, which required integration with the city's accounting software and the HR system, created more sophisticated employee benefit formulas, loaded all 481 CIP projects. We also overhauled CIP accounting for standardization reasons. And of course, the team attended countless hours of training and continues to do so, which ultimately led to a citywide go live on April 1st of last month. And here you can see that basic timeline that I just went over with accomplishments with data conversion and system integration being a big chunk of that. So where we stand today is that we are moving forward with developing the 2023 budget in Questica. However, we do have 115 users plus that needs training, and they all have varying roles. The plan is to focus on budget inputters right now with just in training when modules open. So Questica Budget has two main modules, CIP, which is currently open for input, they have their training at the end of April, and the operating budget will open the beginning of June, and those inputters will have their training this May. Recorded and written training are available on the budget SharePoint, and more will come available as time goes on. Questica Help is a vendor training website that is not organizational specific, but it is highly recommended, and it's there for whenever anyone needs ad hoc help when in the system. The hope is that heavy users like our accounting team will get the training they need now, while the curious or maybe light users can explore the videos during this time. So with that being said, there are still plenty of implementation tasks to complete. So we are starting to balance two timelines right now, which is tricky, especially this year as we transition to the new system and encounter, some of those one-time implementation issues. Finally, I'd just like to touch on where we are taking Questica. Again, we have those two timelines, and I should hope that the staff, recognize the first timeline. Everything's pretty much the same when it comes to function. A budget will be created and reviewed this summer. It's just the way we go about it, and the reports that we use are going to look a little different. Meanwhile, the budget office will continue its implementation work, which requires more information, creation of a new budget book, importing Questica into FMS, and transitioning all of the budget transfers into Questica. Furthermore, Questica Budget also comes with a performance measures module that we hope to launch at a later time. So just to wrap it up, again, the robust software, and we're trying to phase in its capabilities over time so as not to overwhelm everyone, including ourselves. So likely things will change as time goes by. Are there any questions?
Councilmember Cathcart.
Yeah, so thank you very much for the presentation and overview. I have been eagerly anticipating this for a year. How do I get to be the 116th user so that I can play with the system and learn all its bells and whistles? And then also, could you just talk a little bit about what would be included in those performance measures?
Sure. So right now, the thought is that users it is necessary that they get training right now so that they can use the system to its full capabilities, so that when they query the data, they, get what they expect. And of course, it's going to be a use it or lose it type of skill. So currently right now, who we have identified as a council user would be your budget manager. So Matt should be receiving training and will be able to query the data for you. Of course, if that changes, if you council members really do want, you can look at that at that point.
Well, Matt's a busy guy, and I really would like to have access, so I'll just throw that out there.
Okay, thank you.
Jessica,
As far as performance measures,
go ahead.
Those will be looked at later. I don't have a good answer for you right now.
Have you captured any feedback on the trainings that have occurred so far? What kind of feedback have you received?
So we have had 2 CIP like live trainings, and I have received some feedback. At this time, it's very new, the software and the processes. So I would say the feeling of overwhelmed is what I'm mostly hearing, but they realize the potential and they are excited to see it through.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for Jessica? Since Councilmember Cathcart wants to be the first one trained, will you co-sponsor this with me?
Sure. Happy.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, for that.
Thank you.
We're going to have Mr. Mike Piccolo come down, and he's going to give us a conversation about the DSP and the bid.
Good afternoon. This item is the amendment to the contract with the DSP that the council approved late last year for a 5-year period. And this is for the management and administration of the bid by the DSP. Previously, the city has had a contract with the DSP going back 15, 20 years. And most recently in the past 10, 15 years, it's been a 5-year block. So we had a 5-year contract for the administration and management, in which we transfer all the assessment funds that we collect from the ratepayers to the DSP to run their programs. And then we have a separate 5-year contract at $100,000 a year annually for their clean team and security ambassadors. So when those 2 contracts expired at the end of last year, the council started negotiating with the DSP probably about July of 2021. And that negotiation resulted in extension of a new 5-year contract for the administration management portion. And in that agreement, there was a provision for $100,000 a year for strategic initiatives as approved by the council on an annual basis. There was no discussion about renewing the clean team and security ambassadors. And I'm not sure where the miscommunication happened, but as Mark Richard was exiting his employment with the DSP, this came to a head. And their understanding was, it's my belief, that they did not realize that the Clean Team Security Ambassador contract was not going to be renewed. So the decision between the parties, I believe Council President Beggs was involved with the negotiation, was to amend the contract to pull out the $100,000 for strategic initiative and put back in the $100,000 a year for the Clean Team and security ambassadors, and it'd be retroactive to the first of the year, so the DSP would be made whole. They are providing those services as we speak, and they have been since the first of the year. So this is not an additional $100,000. We're still at $100,000. So instead of the strategic initiative, it would be for continuing the clean team and security ambassadors. And part of the agreement does acknowledge that the parties need to work towards reducing the DSP's dependency on general fund money for their programs, and that at the end of this contract period of 5 years, their programs will be fully funded by the assessments.
Councilmember Cathcart, yes.
So I don't remember us ever voting to not renew contracts with security ambassadors and the clean team. In fact, I remember those being pretty robust parts of the conversation.
Well, that was a separate contract, its own 5-year contract at $100,000 a year, and that expired at the end of 2021. And those discussions to renew that contract never occurred, never picked up, and they were never incorporated into the administration management contract. The parties were pretty involved in the negotiations. They got pretty detailed at times. The DSP did have their attorney with them for these negotiations, and I'm just not sure what the parties were thinking in terms of the separate contract.
And if we were to, or if DSP was to eliminate their security ambassadors and the clean team, I guess my question would be, how much would the city have to pay to pick up that slack? I'm guessing it'd be more than $100,000.
I think that in previous discussions, it was always acknowledged that it was not the goal of the clean team and security ambassadors to supplement and remove the city's obligation for those activities. But I think what you just indicated is a clear, the parties all recognize that if those services go away,
Yeah.
there may be a deficiency in security ambassador, security programs, and the clean team activities.
So go ahead, Councilmember Bingo.
Was the clean team not getting picked up anything to do with, having to do with the mayor's cleaning efforts in the city?
No.
Was that?
Not
main
to my
reason?
knowledge.
Okay.
No, that was all after the contract. So Councilmember Stratton and I were part of those discussions, and really, we had felt that $100,000 a year was going to the clean team. The strategic initiatives was a different conversation, and that if they went that route, it could be on a reimbursable basis. But you had two attorneys who read the contract differently. And so we had to get to this point of clarity of that money is specifically for the clean team. And as you said, at the end of the 5 years, the bid fees that are collected from the ratepayers should be adequate enough to cover that service, and the city can gradually reduce its contributions toward that effort or get totally out of that game. So do you understand anything differently, Councilmember Stratton or
That's
Kinnear?
what I understand. And also that they were talking about when I don't know the term for it, but when other sections are
Bid
added.
expansion.
Bid expansion, then the clean team was going to be expanded into those areas as well. So that's what I remember.
Correct.
And the contract provisions about the expansion is still in there. So there's
Perfect.
financial incentive when there's expansions over the years. Each year, I think the goal was each year there'd be increment expansion.
Correct.
We just wanted to make Mike come down here and explain it.
Well, it is so nice to be able to be back in front of the council in person.
It's good
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mike, because we needed clarity on that because we have not compensated the DSP for the services they have rendered. And we want to go ahead and move that contract forward and release those funds that they have earned. So
And I know they are invoicing the city, so
as we speak. All right. Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Well, this might be a record for the Finance Committee. Hanley, yes.
I just wanted to note, Jason was looking for 2 council sponsors for the SBO on the demolition.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do one.
Okay. Karen and Michael?
Yep. Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. That being said, Finance is adjourned. We will see you back at 3:30 for briefing. Go grab some lunch.